Okay, start off by turning on the kill switch. Make sure the charge pump water is on. So now this blue valve, it's on. Turn the truck on, wait for the glow plugs to warm. Once on, go to the switchboard. See, it's in drive, not operate, so that means the PTO is not engaged. At this point, turn to the operating portion of the directions. You'll work straight down the line from starting the truck to turning the PTO on, to getting the OMSI going, and eventually turning the PLC on. And I'm just going to work straight down from section 4 A through V. First step after the truck is on is pushing the PTO switch. If it goes over to red, you're good to continue. If it does not, you'll have to shut the parking brake off, come to the drive transmission, get the truck to roll by putting it either in drive and no faster than 1 mile an hour. Just need it to move a little, and then back into neutral. And while it's still rolling, hit the PTO back on. You would have shut it off and then turned it back on if you did not get this red light. At this point, while you're still in neutral, you're going to hit the mode switch. This is where it's important to have a second person to listen for this, but you can hear it from inside the cab as well. And then after that, we need to get into our 1-to-1 drive ratio. Right now it says it's in neutral 1. In order to do that, we're going to hit drive. And you'll see 1-to-1 on the dash. At this point, your OMSI is working. You should have controls through the switchboard here to drive the truck. So we'll be using that forward, neutral, reverse right there. We do not tap the brake at this point. Also, speed control needs to be on here. It's cruise control basically, and if you tap the brake, you shut all this off. So do not touch the brake at this point. Everything will be handled through here and there for the truck operation. Test it out to make sure the PTO is working by turning this lever left and right. It should turn the head. PTO is working. We have not got any water functions yet. So at this point, our charge pump valve is on. I'm going to revert back to the instructions here. We are beyond the PTO portion. We're going to hit the pump switch, charge pump switch. So that means this button right here. Hit charge. And at this point, we're going to go outside and check the 3 lubrication lines and give the bypass valve 3 turns counterclockwise. It's going to get loud. tug back on it, make sure it doesn't come out. I've already checked each one, so I'm only going to check one this time, but the next step is turning the bypass valve 3 times counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3. Come back down off the back of the truck and head back in the cab. Again, very useful to have another person with you. Once we've done that, you'll go to step L on the directions. We're going to turn on the clutch switch. You'll hear it ramp up. If you receive an error light here, you'll hit fault clear 1 time and then try the clutch switch again. Once we've got that working, we're going to go raise the RPM to 14 to 1500. That's done by your cruise control switch right here. Tap it until we get between 15 and 1600. As you can see there. Once that is running, it is now time, with the head off the ground, to hit the dump valve switch. As I said before, the dump valve switch is essentially the trigger to this gun. You cannot have someone in front during this time, and once we raise the pressure, it has to be totally clear. So a second set of eyes to watch and make sure that no one's in front is very important. At this point, I'm going to hit dump valve switch, and we're going to go back outside and turn that bypass valve to the right until we get to 28,000 PSI. At this point, I'm going to shut the dump valve off. We're operating at 28,000 PSI. As you can see, that's not blowing at that anymore. We did not check the PLC yet. PLC is right here. In order to turn this on, I'm going to hit the on button here. And that switch will go from being an on button to now an off button. That's how we'll shut it off when we don't need it anymore. The head rotation right now is set to 700 because it's at its bare minimum. I'm going to dial this up to 2500. At this point, with the pins out of the head, and our truck rolling, we could drop that head down flat, and once we pick our designated area to remove rubber, we could hit the dump valve switch again, and we will begin removing rubber. It is important to monitor the high pressure to make sure that we stay at 28,000. The charge pressure does not work yet. It has not worked since we received the truck. But if you're testing for charge pressure in the beginning before we get the pump running, your readout on the high pressure side, if only the charge pump is running, is giving you the amount of pressure that's running through that charge pump. So for now, until we get a charge pressure reading, you can utilize this for the very beginning to check and make sure you got 40 to 60 PSI of water pressure. Once we're done, raise the head, lower our RPMs for the rotation speed. Lower them all the way down before we shut them off. Once it's back down to 700, you can hit off on the PLC, which is that same button, but now it reads off. As you can see, it says on now, so that means the next time we hit it, it'll click it on. And from here, it's just going in reverse. So, lower our RPMs all the way back down. Once it's low, we can go clutch. You'll hear that ramp down. We can go charge. Shut that off. The next move is we want to get out of that 1-to-1 ratio. So we're going to go neutral. You'll hear it click. Okay. And after that, it is mode. Still with the red operate button until we hit PTO. PTO. Now we are back to the regular drive transmission chassis. We are not operating through OMSI at all. This is no longer in a hydrostatic mode. At this point, you can turn off the truck. Make sure the key comes out so that way you know it's off. Come back out. Listen for the purge pump for your DEF. This one is already off. Turn this valve back to the off position. Come back to your charge pump. Make sure the charge pump is off. Once that's off, I just want to talk about one other thing that's usually done either a shift before or a day before for setup, because it does take time. This is where all the tips are and the spray bars. There's a lot of stuff that can leak. There's a lot of stuff that can wear. There's a lot of wear items here. These are the shields that go over the tips. Below these shields, there's a row of tips. We run 2 11s, 2 9s, and 2 7 for tips. These last 3 are plugs, and that orientation is the same on both sides, from outside to in. So 2 11s, 2 9s, 2 7s, 3 plugs. We have a brand new skirt on this one, so it's all there the way it should be. And we can test the standoff height. There's a 2x8 that I put inside the locker. For you to gauge how high the tips are off the ground. Per the training videos that we've all watched, it's supposed to be somewhere between 3/4 and an inch off the ground. So what I do is I go from wheel to wheel with the piece of wood. Let me rotate the head into position here. I go from wheel to wheel, make sure it's touching, and then check out this gap right here. Measure the gap between the wood and the tips. If it's not correct, come back here and use these screw downs kind of to adjust the wheels, so that way we have the proper height. Also, before you can actually operate and lower the head, this pin needs to be out, and I do not see, where are you? Oh, that's on the other side. That tip and pin needs to be out. There may be pressure on these, so you might need a person inside to relieve the pressure off the pin while the other person pulls it out. Also, per the training, the routing of these lines is apparently on the operator due to the company. It is not the best system, and it does get bound up, so an extra set of eyes would help, as all these hoses that lay on top of each other could release a quick fitting, or just become bound up. Behind each one of these swivels, one here, and one down there is a swivel seal inside. and they will weep if they blow through that little hole right there. If it does, it needs to come apart, and there's a little plastic swivel seal kit inside the boxes on the truck. This is the basic operation. Again, this is just for a refresher. This is not a full training. Full training is four days from setup, testing, and cleanup at the end. And that's all.